7 FM, the pride of the people.
Yes, a very beautiful morning out there, and welcome to another edition of In the Papers on your darling station, IPA 102.7 FM. This is your trusted guide for major headlines making waves across the nation and beyond. My name is Florence Ibhareman, and for the next 55 minutes, we shall be taking you through the major newspaper this morning. Beginning from the Punch newspaper, we have headlines from the Hope newspaper this morning. We have headlines from the Nation's newspaper, the Guardian newspaper, the Vanguard newspaper, and of course, Nigerian Tribune. So I implore you to please stay locked on IPA 102.7 FM because we're about to bring the news to your doorstep. Yes, beginning from the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have a talk on Fashoranti's legacy built on integrity. And that was from Arugbofa. Yes, taking another headline from the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have APC dumps consensus arrangement, adopt direct primaries nationwide. Still on the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have NNPC post 276 billion naira profit as gas output hit 1 year high. We are still on the Hope newspaper this morning. Tinubu deploys 4 permanent secretaries to boost governance. Still on the Hope newspaper this morning, Accord reject deregistration threat, cite electoral victories. Yes, away from the Hope newspaper this morning and now to the Punch, where we have Ibadan Indigenes warns politicians against disrespecting Olubadan. Yes, still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have soldiers assault the cable journalist in Lagos traffic altercation. And of course, still talking journalists, Lagos vows to protect journalists, strengthens press freedom. And that headline is coming to you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Yes, still on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have Sokoto meeting pushes rural healthcare drive. Yes, away from the Punch and now to Daily Post, where we have a talk on 2027. Northern Nigeria divided as Obi Kwankwanso flouted joint NDC ticket. Still on Daily Post, talking business, customers react as CBN new bank charges in Nigeria. Away from the Punch and now to the Nation's newspaper, where we have federal government seeks collaboration to tackle disinformation and misinformation. And lastly, from the Nation's newspaper this morning, where we have IG6 accreditation for 42 police colleges nationwide. Yes, glad to have you back. The program is In the Papers, your daily nugget for news and making major headlines in today's newspaper. And of course, beginning from the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Fashoranti's legacy built on integrity and sacrifice. And that's coming to you from Arugbofa. Now the details. The former Secretary General of Afenifere, Bashorun Seyinde Arugbofa, has decided the elder statesman Pa Ruben Fashoranti as a rare symbol, has described the elder statesman Pa Ruben Fashoranti as a rare symbol of integrity, discipline and selfless leadership, whose enduring value have shaped Ondo State and inspired national consensus. Arugbofa made the assertion while delivering a lecture titled The Fashoranti Legacy, Value That Build a State and Inspired the Nation, held in Akure to mark Fashoranti's 100th birthday. The event, titled Evening of Excellence, was organized by Owena Press Limited, publisher of the Hope newspaper and magazine, in honor of the Afenifere leader. The event drew dignitaries from across the country, including members of the judiciary, traditional rulers, academics, and government officials, all of whom paid glowing tribute to Fashoranti's contribution to education, governance, and socio-political development. According to guest speaker, Fashoranti's life is an inexhaustible reservoir of virtues from which individuals and leaders can draw lessons from nationwide. He traced Fashoranti's character formation to the early days of Ondo Boys High School, where he combined academic excellence and with activism, leadership, and participation in debate and athletics. Arugbofa added that the leadership quality were further refined at the University College Ibadan, where he embraced intellectual engagement and came under the influence of the political ideology of Obafemi Awolowo. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper this morning with this headline: Fashoranti's legacy built on integrity, sacrifice, says Arugbofa. Yes, still on the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have APC DAMSA consensus arrangement adopts direct primaries nationwide. Now the details. As political parties gear up to pick candidates for elective positions ahead of the 2027 general elections, the All Progressive Congress APC has officially announced a decision to jettison the consensus arrangement it had earlier adopted in the selection of candidates and has now resolved to conduct direct primary elections across all 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory (FCT). The decision was contained in a formal notification to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and the party members nationwide, where the APC leadership made it clear that there will be no room for consensus candidacy, emphasizing a commitment to transparent and internal democracy. The new primary election timeline shows that the party's primary will hold as follows. Presidential primaries are scheduled to hold between May 15 and 16, 2026. Primary elections for House of Representatives is scheduled for May 18, while the senatorial primary election will be conducted nationwide on May 20, 2026. For State House of Assembly primary election, May 21 has been selected as Judgment Day, while governorship primaries are scheduled for May 23. Assuring all aspirants of all level playing field, the party noted that every member will have the opportunity to participate directly. Recall that in accordance with the provision of the Electoral Act 2026, candidates for elective offices are to be selected through consensus, and where consensus cannot be reached, direct primaries should be adopted. The APC had preferred their consensus option but promised to resort to direct primaries option where consensus fails. However, the consensus option has continued to generate controversies, with allegations of imposition of candidates leveled against some state governors. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper with this headline: Talking 2027, APC dumps consensus arrangement, adopt direct primaries nationwide. Yes, still on the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Tinubu deploys 4 permanent secretaries to boost governance. Now the details. President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate deployment of 4 newly appointed federal permanent secretaries as part of efforts to strengthen governance and improve service delivery across key sectors. In a statement issued on Monday by the Director of Information and Public Relations, Mrs. Odo Olotu, on behalf of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, the government said the move aligns with the administration's renewed hope agenda and is aimed at enhancing effective policy implementation. According to the release, the appointment followed a competitive selection process and are intended to boost internal ministerial collaboration and drive sustainable deployment. The statement further noted that the posting were designed to optimize performance, foster collaboration across ministries, and drive sustainable development in key sector of the economy. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper with this headline: Tinubu deploys 4 permanent secretaries to boost governance. Yes, away from the Hope newspaper this morning and now to the Punch, where we have Ibadan indigents warns politicians against disrespecting Olubadan. Now the details. The Central Council of Ibadan indigents on Monday read a riot act to the politicians in Oyo State, especially in the ancient city, over disrespecting the sacred stool of Olubadan of Ibadan land, warning that any attempt to deintegrate the revered stool will be met with severe consequences. CCII President General Ajeniyi Ajewole gave the warning in a statement released by the council's publicity secretary, Kola Olomide, in Ibadan, the state capital, amid growing concern over rising reckless utterance and conduct in the state by some power-seeking politicians. He said recent actions by some political actors had crossed acceptable boundaries and pose a risk to the dignity of traditional institution in Ibadan land. Ajewole stressed that the council would not tolerate any form of disrespect directly directed at the Olubadan stool, warning further that the CCII would not sit idle by and watch the Olubadan throne desecrate for political gain. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Ibadan indigents warns politician against disrespecting Olubadan. Yes, still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have Lagos vows to protect journalists, strengthening press freedom. Now the details. The Lagos state government has reaffirmed its commitment to press freedom and democratic accountability, declaring that a free and responsible media remains central to governance, transparency, and national development. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu made the position known in a message to mark the 2026 World Press Freedom Day, delivered by the Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Gbenga Omotosho. It described the occasion as a moment of crucial reflection within the media and governance ecosystem, anchored on the theme Shaping a Future at Peace, promoting press freedom for human rights, development, and security. Sanwo-Olu emphasized that the media plays a defining role in shaping public discourse, strengthening institutions, and advancing sustainable development. The governor urged journalists to uphold professionalism, particularly in a period marked by policy reforms and shifting socio-economic reality, while reiterating that government openness While reiterating the government's openness to engagement, he stressed that a well-informed society is crucial to stable and to stability and growth. Sanwo-Olu also raised concern over emerging threats within the information ecosystem, warning that misinformation, disinformation, economic pressure, and safety risks facing journalists pose serious challenges. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Lagos vows to protect journalists, strengthening press freedom. Yes, now. Yes, still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have Bauchi marketers push for better trading space. The Amalgamated Traders and Artisan Association Bauchi State Chapter has appealed to the state government to provide a more conducive trading space, particularly for traders displaced from their former businesses' location due to ongoing town planning effort. The chairman of the association, Abdullahi Caps, made the appeal following a quarterly meeting held on Saturday to deliberate on issues affecting members. Caps noted that many displaced traders have been severely impacted and requires urgent government intervention to sustain their livelihood. However, he commended the Bauchi State Governor Bala Muhammad for his developmental strides in the commercial sector, particularly the construction of a new market along the Ibrahim Bako bypass, describing it as a major boost to commercial activities and an improvement to business environment. In his remark, the Secretary General of the association, Babaji Gadei, also praised the governor for ongoing developmental projects across the state. He reaffirmed the association's commitment to supporting government efforts aimed at promoting progress and enhancing citizens' welfare. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the pages of the Punch newspaper with this headline: Bauchi marketers push for better trading space. Yes, away from the Punch newspaper now to Daily Post, where we have a talk on 2027. Northern Nigeria divided as Obi Kwankwanso flout joint NDC ticket. Now the details. The political realignment involving former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and former Kano State Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso has continued to generate debate across northern Nigeria as questions grow over how voters in the region will respond to their reported movement into the Nigerian Democratic Congress (NDC). While the development is being described as by party leaders as a step towards building a united opposition platform, reactions in the north remains uncertain, with analysts and residents divided on whether the alignment will strengthen or weaken its appeal in the region. Recall that on Sunday, both Peter Obi and Kwankwanso formally joined the NDC in Abuja. At the party's national secretariat, NDC National Chairman Clopas Moses presented membership card to both politicians as they officially aligned with the opposition platform. Speaking at the event, Kwankwanso said their decision followed wild consultation with NDC stakeholders, noting that they discovered strong ideological alignment. On his part, Obi said the party was focused on rebuilding Nigeria and restoring confidence in government. He also urged party members to avoid internal dispute and litigation, stressing unity within new platform. For details of that story, see the Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Northern Nigeria divided as Obi Kwankwanso flout joint NDC ticket. Glad to have you back. The program is still in the papers, your daily nugget for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. Still on the pages of the Daily Post this morning, where we have soldiers assault journalists over traffic disputes in Lagos. Now the details. A journalist of the cable, Olalekan Fakoyejo, has recounted how he was allegedly assaulted by a soldier following a disagreement linked to a traffic obstruction in Ogba area of Lagos State. Fakoyejo, who served as assistant business editor at the platform, narrated the incident in an interview on Monday, explaining that he was traveling in a tricycle from Ikeja to Ogba on Saturday when he encountered a soldier managing traffic. He said the situation unfolded around a Pleasant Event Center off Ajao Road in Ikeja, where soldiers were controlling vehicular movement. According to him, the confrontation began when a soldier stopped another tricycle riding and ordered him to disembark and climb onto the vehicle as punishment, an action he believed worsened the traffic situation. The soldier was trying to punish a tricycle driver on different lane. He asked the driver to step out and climb on the roof of his tricycle, when what he was doing was causing traffic, and I said this is causing traffic. I was on another tricycle on another lane, which was not far from where the other tricycle was. The soldier heard what I said, and he dragged me out of the tricycle. He began threatening me and ordered me to go meet his colleague who were not close to the incident. I refused to go, telling him I did nothing wrong and he does not have the right to order me to go and report myself to his colleague. During the period, he kept pushing me backward towards where he said his colleagues were. Then one of his colleagues came to speak to me. As I was explaining to the colleague that walked up to us, the soldier that was threatening me just slapped me immediately. I turned my face towards him, he said. A reporter about the cable indicated that a video recorded by eyewitness showed that a soldier repeatedly pushed the journalist and attempting to strike him with the peak of the ground. The reporter added that Fakoyojo's phone cell during the altercation with the screen damaged after hitting the ground. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Soldier assaulted journalist over traffic disputes in Lagos. Yes, still on the pages of Daily Post newspaper this morning, where we have Ebonyi government lifts curfew on Amasiri community. Now the details. The Ebonyi state government has lifted the curfew imposed on Amasiri autonomous community of Afikpo local government area 3 months after the killing of 4 indigenes of the Okporojo village in Idima community at that local government area. The director of the State Security Service DSS in the state, Mrs. E.Y. Kolawole, announced the development while briefing journalists shortly after a Security Council meeting held at the governor's office in Abakaliki on Monday. She said the curfew had been completely lifted, but noted that security personnel would remain in the area to sustain peace and tranquility in the troubled community. Kolawole added that other suspects who were still at large in connection with the attack will soon be declared wanted. The State Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General followed several letters of remorse written by the people of Amansiri community and accepted by the people of Okporojo village. According to him, the letter was transmitted through Amasiri's traditional leadership with assurance of commitment to peace and reconciliation. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Ebonyi government lifts curfew on Amasiri community. Yes, still on the pages of Daily Post this morning, where we have Borno CP warns officers against torture, right violation. Now the details. Borno State Police Command has reiterated its zero-tolerance stance on torture and human rights abuses, warning officers to strictly adhere to professional conduct in discharging their duty. The directive was issued on Monday, May 4, 2026, during a briefing at the police headquarters in Maiduguri, where Commissioner of Police CP Naziru Abdulmajid addressed tactical commanders, head of department, and divisional police officers. It reminded officers of the need for accountability, restraint, and respect for human dignity in all policing operations. The warning comes amid heightened public scrutiny and police conduct nationwide following recent incident that triggered a call for stronger enforcement of the use of force, regulation, and greater respect for citizens' rights. CP Abdulmajid stressed that torture, excessive force, and other forms of abuse are illegal and unacceptable, adding that such conduct violates the Police Act and establish operational guidelines. He said the misconduct not only undermines the image of the Nigerian police force, but also weakens public trust, which is essential for effective policing and intelligence gathering. For details of that story, see the Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Borno CP warns officers against torture and right violation. Yes, away from Daily Post and now to the Nation's newspaper, where we have a talk on strike. Federal government, SANU, NASO resumes talk today. Now the details. The federal government and the Joint Action Committee, JSC, of the Non-Teaching Staff Union in universities will today resume talk on the strike called by varsity non-academic workers. Representative of the government and the various unions left the parley without resolving key issues. The JAC comprises the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutes, NASU. The deadlock meeting convened by Education Minister Dr. Tunji Ojo was adjourned till today by 3 p.m. for further negotiation. SANU and NASU began an indefinite strike on April 30 following the expiration of a 1-month ultimatum to the federal government over the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement. The unions are protesting the federal government proposed 30% salary increase, insisting on a 40% adjustment through collective bargaining. The federal government had earlier withdrawn the 30% offer, a decision the union described as unilateral and lacked proper consultation. Speaking on the industrial action, SANU President Mohammed Ibrahim said the strike was fully compelled with nationwide paralyzing administrative and essential service in university. For details of that story, see the Nation's newspaper with this headline: Federal Government, SANU, NASU resumes talk today. We are still on the Nation's newspaper this morning, where we have Natasha picks nomination farms, promising expanded opportunities. Now the details. The lawmaker representing Kogi Central Senatorial District, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has formally declared her intention to seek a re-election into the 2027 National Assembly polls, pledging to consolidate what she described as people-driven legacy of service, empowering and inclusive development. Speaking while accepting a nomination from the senator, according to a statement from her media office in Abuja, expressed gratitude to her constituents for their continued support. She said her decision to seek a second term is anchored on the collective progress we have built together and the greater future that lies ahead for Kogi Central. According to a statement, Akpoti-Uduaghan had earned recognition for grassroots focused representation since assuming office, with a focus on infrastructural development, education, women and youth empowerment, and healthcare intervention. Her tenure has seen the facilitation of key constituent projects, including road rehabilitation, the distribution of educational materials and scholarship, and vocational training programs aimed at reducing youth unemployment. For details of that story, see the Nation's newspaper with this headline: Natasha picks nomination farms, promises expanded opportunities. Yeah, so glad to have you back. Of course, I'm still taking headlines, and we have this one coming to you from the Guardian newspaper this morning. Federal government seeks probe of killings in South Africa as envoy absorbs government. Now the details. South African acting high commissioner to Nigeria, Lesotho McHale, has exonerated the government from the persistent xenophobic attack on non-citizens, including Nigeria. They did little to stop the planned probe into the killing of Nigerians in the Madibia country, and its move to repatriate citizens willing to return home before the attack could escalate. Also, it did not stop Kenya from advising its nationals in South Africa to exercise caution and avoid protest areas amid rising tension. Meanwhile, the Human Rights Writer Association of Nigeria expressed concern about the persistent pattern of foreign travel by President Bola Tinubu, describing the trend as economically wasteful, strategically questionable, and dangerously disconnected from the urgent realities confronting Nigerians at home. Also, former Minister of Education Obi Ezekwesili urged the president to cut short his ongoing foreign visits to France, Kenya, and Rwanda to address the attack on Nigerians in South Africa. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: Federal government seeks a probe of killing in South Africa as envoy absorbs government. We are still on the pages of the Guardian newspaper this morning, where we have court orders OAU to correct students' degree, award 5 million naira damage for right violation. Now the details. Justice Adefunmilayo Demi Ajayi of the Federal High Court sitting in Osogbo, Osun State, has ordered Obafemi Awolowo University (OAU) to correct the degree clarification of a graduate, Shekoni Jemima Oluwagbemisola, after finding the institution unlawful degrading a result. The court in its verdict held that the university breached and violated the fundamental right of the plaintiff by changing her grade from pass with credit to pass without lawful justification. The court subsequently awarded 5 million naira in damages against the university, alongside 800,000 naira as the cost of the suit. Oluwagbemisola, a graduate of physiotherapy, who earned a bachelor of media rehabilitation (BMR) in 2023, had approached the court in suit number FHC/OS/CS/107/2025, challenging what she described as the arbitrary altercation of her academic records, filed through the council. Prince Will Okafor and P.O. Okafor and Co. of P.O. Okafor and Co., the Daniel Chamber. The suit stated that the university initially confirmed academic standing as pass with credit in a statement of result dated November 23, 2023. The clarification was also publicly affirmed during the institution's 47th convocation in December 2023, where she was listed in the official convocation brochure as graduating with the same degree. However, trouble began when the plaintiff applied for her original certificate only to discover that the university had reversed her degree certificate to pass. After unsuccessful attempt to resolve the discrepancy internally, she sought for judicial intervention. While delivering judgment, Justice Demi Ajayi described the university's conduct as arbitrary and reckless, noting that it failed to adhere to acceptable standard and best practices expected of a reputable institution. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: Court orders OAU to correct students' degree, award 5 million naira damages for right violation. Yes, sir, bringing headlines to you. This is from the Sun newspaper this morning, where we have protesters storms Federal High Court over the registration of opposition parties. Now the details. Tension erupted at the Federal High Court Abuja yesterday as demonstrators stormed the premises to protest alleged plan to deregister opposition parties and what they describe as interference in democratic institutions. The protesters, operating under the banner of concerned northern Nigerian stakeholders, marched to the court entrance in Wuse, chanting solidarity songs and displaying placards with inscriptions such as "No opposition, no election," "Tinubu, let our democracy breathe," and "AGF must be neutral." Security operatives, including personnel of the Department of State Service, quickly barricaded the entrance and prevented the protesters from gaining access to the court's complex, creating a tense standoff. Addressing journalists at the scene, the leader Banki Sharif accused the federal government of attempting to weaken opposition voice through administrative and legal processes. Sharif further warned that restricting opposition parties would undermine electoral credibility, saying elections without credible opposition are nothing more than stage exercise. Democracy demands fairness, openness, and equal opportunity for all political actors. The protesters insisted that civil space must remain protected, arguing that attempts to weaken opposition parties could deepen political tension and erode public trust in governance. For details of that story, see the Sun newspaper with this headline: Protesters storm Federal High Court over the registration of opposition parties. Yes, and lastly, from the Vanguard newspaper this morning, where we have UAE announces all schools returning to remote learning. Now, the details. The United Arab Emirates on Monday ordered all schools to return to remote learning for the rest of the week. The education minister following a state of attack targeting the country. The Ministry of Education announces a decision to shift to a remote learning system, stating from Tuesday, May 5, 2026 until Friday, May 8, 2026. For details of that story, see the Vanguard newspaper with this headline. UAE announces all school returning to remote learning. Yes, and that is where we'll draw the curtains on today's edition of In the Papers, your daily drive for news and making major headlines in today's newspaper. We believe we've been able to keep you informed and up to date about what the paper is saying. Of course, we implore you to also keep asking questions regarding the situation of the country and keep staying informed. Until we come your way again, same time, same station, 9 a.m. Monday to Friday for brand new edition of In the Papers. We implore you to please keep it locked on iPower 102.7 FM, as there are a list of endless entertaining, educating and informative programs outlined for your listening pleasure. My name is Florence Ibhareman, and I am saying